What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Finale Podcast. This is episode 88. Today, I'm joined by Tyler to discuss the NBA playoffs. Tyler, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right, man. I think this is your first NBA episode of the season, if I'm not mistaken. We've had you on for the NFL season, but definitely excited to get you on for some NBA playoff conversation today.
Yes, sir. And what better time?
All right, got the jersey on. It's a great time to be a Timberwolves fan. Second round right now, undefeated in the playoffs. Vibes are immaculate, as one would say. So, just
Over
to
the
dive
moon.
into things, yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about. You already know, like, we just got we got a lot of emotions, I guess, being Timberwolves fans for so long. With everything that's happening right now, it's kind of surreal. But before we go too deep into things with the Timberwolves, just since this is the first episode of the playoffs that we've done, just want to get your thoughts on how the first round went for you. All the series.
Yeah. Um, I mean, we can break it down series by series. I guess, yeah. Here, yeah, let's do that. Let
Yeah.
me let me pull it up here. Um, Celtics Heat, you know,
Mm.
um, Heat playing without Jimmy, pretty tough. Celtics
Definitely.
handled business as expected.
Yeah.
You know, Thunder sweeping the Pelicans. Thought Pelicans have put up a fight, but I mean, Thunder have been a great team all season.
Hmm.
Nuggets and Lakers, and when that went to five, you know, again, kind of went as expected, I would say. Never count LeBron out, but Nuggets have had their number. So,
True.
um, the Knicks beating the 76ers, that one kind of surprised me, but the Knicks, I think, have been surprising everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the 76ers, they put up a good fight. But if they were healthy all season, I feel like they wouldn't even have been a seventh seed. Like, I think Dante DiVincenzo said it, like, they're not the typical seventh seed. Probably if they're
Yeah.
healthy, they're not even in the plan. They're a better team than the Magic, the Cavs, the Pacers. They would have been somewhere in that top four, in my opinion,
Hmm.
probably fourth. So I don't know. I mean, it's a tough way to end the season, but I think they put up a
Definitely.
good fight going to 6 games.
Yeah. That also brings me to another topic, with that 76ers. Is it time to give the keys to Tyrese Maxey? This his team now?
I mean, I
Time
think
to move on from
it's
Joel?
kind of trending in that direction because Joel Embiid, with his injury history, it's like how long does he have left in his prime to really be a dominant player, like MVP caliber type of player that we know he's been for, the majority of his career. So it's just like I think it's trending in that direction, and I don't think it would be a bad thing if they went in that direction because they've tried so many things with Embiid. They've tried the Ben Simmons experiment, Jimmy Butler experiment, Tobias Harris, James Harden, now
It's
Maxi.
been
It's just like
been a
they've
long
tried so many
process to
things.
trust.
Yeah, so I guess it's trending in that direction. We really don't know how much time Embiid has left with Philly, but I would give it like 2 years maximum before he's out of there and explores, a different market.
Hmm. Yeah, especially, I mean, after this year losing in the first round again, you kind of have to start thinking about that. So,
Right.
but like you said, not being healthy all year, you know, not the typical seven seed. They definitely underperformed, didn't finish strong. So
Yeah,
we'll see
100%.
what they do. Anyways, next series. Let's see. Magic and Cavs. Thought that was a good
Mm,
series. That was one of the
definitely.
probably more exciting series. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, with Cavs winning that in seven.
Yeah. I mean, Paulo Banchero, man, like he went crazy in that series for the
He's
Magic.
the real deal. Yeah, and
Yeah.
if people didn't take notice before, they definitely have now. So
Yeah, definitely. I pulled up his numbers because he was one of the players I wanted to talk about in the first round. He averaged 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists. And he's, I believe, a second year player. There's so
Sophomore,
and
yeah,
yeah, so it's kind of crazy, how he's doing all this so fast. And I think the Magic have a really good future. They have a really, they have a superstar in their hands right now. And if one of those players
100%.
drops out for the USA Olympics, I think Paulo should take the spot because I think it would do him like really, just be a good experience, especially what it can do for young players to have that experience with Team USA. We saw what it did for Anthony Edwards this year, coming off of last year's FIBA. And Paulo
Hmm.
was on that team too. So if they're going to bring anybody from last year's team, I think it should be Ant and then Paulo for sure because he's, coming to be a really good player, definitely going to be an all-star for years to come. So I just, wanted to talk about Paulo real quick. But yeah, overall, good series. I think the Cavs definitely should have finished that in less than 7 games with the talent that they have on their roster. I mean, like just they're loaded with, they're starting five. Like
Yeah, they're
it's
they're
crazy.
just a better
Darius
team.
Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Mobley, Allen, even Allen. I know he
Hmm.
was injured, but like they just have way more depth. And I'm surprised that they weren't able to win any of those games on the road because in that series, the home team was the only winner in that series. That's why it went 7 games. I thought the Cavs should
Yeah,
have finished that, if anything, in six. They should have finished that game six, but somehow let go of that game. But I don't know. We're seeing the Cavs. We'll talk about it in round two. About to play Boston. Like, it's not going to be pretty. But I think the Cavs. Um, I'm surprised because I thought they would have learned from last year's disappointment in the first round, losing to the Knicks.
hmm
Jared Allen said the lights are too bright, and they come into round one against a very young team, and they go 7 games. I mean, if anything, the Magic should be very proud of themselves for what they did in round one.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
they Magic have nothing to be upset about with the season they had. I think they exceeded expectations. Not only making the playoffs but making some noise. So
Right.
definitely a lot to build on for that young core.
Yeah.
Um, let's see the next series, Mavs Clippers. I don't think we talked about that yet. Another series I was pretty interested in until the Mavericks really took care of business, finished it off. But it's Luka's time. That's kind of been the knack is he hasn't really made any noise in the playoffs. So
Yeah. I mean, just to pivot a little bit, like, what do you think about the Clippers season? I mean, I know they started slow and then had the James Harden trade. They started 0-6 and then they went on like a crazy run to put themselves in that top four position and then had home court advantage in the first round. Kawhi's not really healthy for that series and they lose in 6 games. Like, they're a veteran team. They're getting older. Guys are out of their primes really with Harden,
mhm.
Westbrook, Paul George, Kawhi. It's just like with Paul George being a pending free agent, do you think they should, make an effort to bring him back and keep this Kawhi PG experiment going, or do you think they should just cut ties and let him walk?
I was gonna say that's not just with this season, but kind of overall. I've been disappointed with just
Yeah.
this core that they've formed. You know, on paper, 5 years ago, this is the greatest team of all time, but unfortunately, like you said, it's now they're getting older. They're not quite the same players. It's very reminiscent of like the that Lakers team that had like Steve Nash and oh man, I don't even want to talk about it. The
Yeah, yeah.
biggest disappointment probably in history when they brought that together. But not saying this is on that level, but it's just reminiscent in the fact that it hasn't worked. If they continue doing it, it's probably not going to work. Next year they're not going to be better. Like
Hmm.
it's kind of time to maybe pick one or two to keep around and trade them while they still have some value, make some moves, and kind of go into a rebuild. Maybe not like a full rebuild, but a restructure, I should say.
Right. Yeah, I think that's just the tough thing about being in LA. Like, I think the Lakers are experiencing it too. Just having
Hmm.
those veteran players, like a lot of these teams that are winning right now are younger and going into their primes, and you've got those older players that are kind of fading, still trying to keep up and they can't. And
Yeah.
it's just like, what can you do from here? You're a big market, obviously you want to have those star players, but it's at the same time you want to compete and you want to win. So, what are you going to do to continue to put yourself at the top of the conference and compete with the Mavericks, the Timberwolves, the Thunder, Nuggets? So it's a tricky one, but I think ultimately they should do what's in the best interest of winning and not just try to go for these star players if they can't contribute to winning on a consistent level. I think Paul George obviously has been available for them more so than Kawhi, but
Hmm.
I mean, just with the asking price, if he wants, that max money, I don't know if you're gonna want to do that if you're the Clippers, but we'll see what they do. Um, but yeah, to go more so off of your point with Luca and the Mavs, I think they played a tremendous series. Luca played at a high level. I think just that pairing with Kyrie has been sensational since
Hmm.
the trade deadline moves that they made with PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford. I think they've been playing really well as a team. And it just showed after that game one loss, the Mavs just flipped a switch and just were on a different level throughout the rest of those series. And I mean, if not for um, that crazy uh, shot by Paul George, I think it was in game four, I want to say, where he just was like behind the rim almost in the
Yeah.
corner, like the deep corner shot he had over Derrick Jones Jr. And then some of the plays that James Harden was making late in that game, it's just like
Hmm.
that series could have been over in five. So just a tremendous showing, I'd say, in round one. And now Dallas finds themselves down 0-1 to the Thunder. Another chance to, win that game two tonight against the OKC team is undefeated. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another series I'm obviously excited for, not just as a Wolves fan, but as a basketball fan. I feel like that's a really fun matchup besides the other one that's happening out west. So
Right.
speaking of, did we cover all the teams? Can we finally talk about the
Did we talk about
yeah.
every team besides the Timberwolves Phoenix series? What other series are we missing?
Oh, we didn't Bucks Pacers, we didn't talk about them.
Okay, Bucks Pacers.
Um,
Yeah, what are your
which
thoughts?
huge one. I know there's no failures according to Giannis. You got to look at this season as kind of a disappointment, though. I mean, Pacers have been incredible as well. Obviously, they've played great all season. Tyrese Halliburton is the real deal. Like they definitely have some players on their team, but you bring in Dame. I know Giannis didn't play, but ah, I don't know. You can't help but be disappointed with the outcome. Again, I mean these are players. Giannis probably still in his prime. Dame a little bit over his prime now. Like you made these moves to win a championship now, you lose in the first round. I mean, I know anything can happen, but same thing for the Suns. I mean, you have to be just disappointed with how that played out.
Yeah. As far as the Bucks though, like I think it's tough with just the injury luck or the lack of luck that
Hmm.
they had. Um, Giannis missing the first round of this year and last year due to injury is really tough because last year they were number one seed, this year they're three.
Yeah.
And Damian Lillard obviously as well missing some time in this series. I forgot which game he missed, but I know he missed a game and then wasn't really the same player when he returned for game six. So
Yeah.
I think it's just tough how it all unfolded. I mean, not just this series, but obviously throughout the year, hiring Adrian Griffin in the offseason and then firing him midway through the season, bringing in Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
Um, it just is really tough. And then, I mean, I think Chris Middleton gave him some new life at moments in that
Yeah,
series.
he
He was a
definitely
good player for
deserves.
them. Yeah.
I feel like we say that every year. He's always been, you know, that clutch player making big plays, especially when they really matter. So
hmm But I don't know. I think that core of outside of Giannis, Middleton, Portis, Brooke Lopez, I guess you can include Connaughton in there. I think something needs to change. And that maybe like if Doc Rivers is their guy moving forward, allow him to kind of, make the sort of roster that he wants, move on officially from that Budenholzer era, that run that they made to the
yeah,
finals, because this is a different team now. Ever since you got rid of Drew Holiday, things have changed. So you've got to adapt to, your best players' needs. And Damian Lillard, I think he could have been better this season, and I think he can be better for this team if put in a position that maximizes his strengths. And um, it didn't start out well for just this Bucks era, this new era with Dame. So I think moving forward, you got to address how you're going to change this roster up. I know they're changing it a lot recently, but I think their championship window with that current roster that Budenholzer had, or I think they gotta move on since they already moved on from Budenholzer, moved on from Drew Holiday, move on from maybe Brooke Lopez, maybe Lopez or Connaughton, one of those guys. I don't know, but I think that roster, if they're gonna try to do it, just adding Damon there and then a new coach, I don't think it's going to get it done. I think you have to make some real changes
yeah,
and complement everybody at the same time because their lack of depth is also concerning too. Because if Damon and Giannis are missing, it's just like they don't have anybody really to alleviate those losses. And I know it's obviously
yeah,
two very good players, so it's like not it's like kind of obvious that they're going to struggle, but it's just like they have no depth and their team is not good enough to carry on the load, if not for some
yeah.
of the heroics of so I think they should change some things up a little bit and we'll see what they can do from there.
Let's talk about Minnesota and Phoenix.
Yeah, man. Go
Four
ahead.
four
What
and
are your
oh.
thoughts?
4-0. Not only winning two in Minnesota, winning two in Phoenix, in front of their home crowd, beat KD, beat Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. Before the season, if you ask people, they'd probably say all three of those guys are better than anybody on our roster. Not anymore. All right. I'm not gonna go. I already talked my shit in the tweets, so I won't go too crazy as a Timberwolves fan. But as a basketball fan, disappointed in the Phoenix Suns. You know, happy as a Timberwolves fan, disappointed
Yeah.
in how the Phoenix Suns played. I feel like they looked awful, and I got to give all the credit to Minnesota's defense. We were, I wouldn't say locking them up. I mean, Booker and Durant still had their big games, but we really had control of all four games.
Yeah, and I think like the third quarter in every game, I think was the turning point almost. So it's like just throughout the series, I don't think Phoenix matched Minnesota's intensity,
Mm-mm,
urgency. I think Minnesota knew that this Phoenix team had their number in the regular season and really looked at what Phoenix was doing to affect the impact of their best players. And I think you saw in game one that Minnesota completely flipped the switch and it seemed like the Suns just had no answer and they were too it was just like a lack of urgency and it just seemed like they're being too cool for school almost, Like
mm-hmm,
I know people made, light of Kevin Durant smiling and things like that. I know Bradley Beal also was talking a little bit
mm-hmm,
just throughout the whole series, but I just think they didn't match the intensity and didn't, like Frank Vogel is the type of coach that wants, defense to really be the backbone of the team. And when you have three offensive players, it just they didn't do what he wanted and they're not the type of players that can implement the game plan that he's going to want to implement. Like we saw what he did with the Lakers. That's a defensive team when they won the championship. He comes here, it's just like it just wasn't the sort of match throughout the season that you thought it would be. Um, or most thought it would be, because of how good of a coach he is. I think they showed a lot of urgency towards the end of the season when they needed to win and get out of the play-in spots. But that series in the first round, there just wasn't anything similar. Like Bradley Beal struggled, Devin Booker struggled outside of game four, dropping
Hmm.
almost 50 points. But then KD, I mean, he was really their only lifeline. But, obviously they're not going to get much from their bench. So it's just like those guys had a lot on their plate and they weren't able to deliver. And I think that's just comes down to a lack of continuity. I think that's what they're talking about now with this team is like they haven't had a lot of time together with injuries, with this being their first year together. So lack of continuity obviously affects that compared to a Minnesota team who has been together for a couple of years now. And then yeah, urgency wise, I just don't think they had it. Like we've seen Devin Booker go crazy in the playoffs, and we really didn't see much of that until game four when, backs are against the wall, you're down 3-0. So it's like, okay, it's too late at that point. But as far as Minnesota, I mean, they completely just surprised me in terms of the maturity that they showed, you know, throughout the series. It was just like you said, in my mind, I'm like, this is too good to be true what they're doing right now. Like they're completely affecting what the Suns want to do, and they're forcing turnovers. Rudy Gobert is guarding Kevin Durant. Like
Hmm.
Anthony Edwards is talking crazy. JD McDaniels
To
is
everyone.
having, yeah, 25 points for JD McDaniels. Um, Nas Reed's not having the best series, but the guys around him are picking it up for him. And it's just
Hmm.
like, man, this team has depth. It's deep. And Mike Conley, like, I think this is really the difference. Mike Conley's the difference in what this team is doing this year. I think he's really unlocked things that D'Angelo Russell wasn't able to for this team. And
Hmm.
I feel like the team recognizes that, Conley's years are sort of dwindling. He's about 36, I want to say. And he said,
Hmm.
if there's not enough incentive to win, I mean, do it for me because his years are coming to an end. He had his time with the Grizzlies. They weren't able to get it done, that grit and grind era. Now he's got his time with the Timberwolves. They've got a real chance at going to the finals and winning a championship. It's just too good to be true almost for the Timberwolves, but still undefeated. It's like we're living a dream right now. So, super excited with how that first round went, and obviously the domination in game two against the Nuggets. Like, it's a lot to be proud about right now.
I was gonna say, I didn't even really think about it until you said that just now, but yeah, Mike Conley, when he was with that Grizzlies team, when they were really good, they were very similar. They had, Marcus Gasol, they had uh Tony Allen, right, on that team.
Right.
Like just lockdown, aggressive, defensive minded players. And that really is kind of the play style that the Timberwolves play with now, except for
100%.
obviously younger and better. So,
Hey man. Yeah, like I don't know. I think Minnesota made a conscious decision to not try to be a heavy offensive team, but to make, their defense become the identity of the team. I think that was
mhm.
a decision that came with the Rudy Gobert trade and obviously was question marks at first about it. And now you're kind of seeing, okay, this is what Tim Conley and Chris Finch really wanted out of this team, because they knew the offense was going to come, but you can't, you can't, try to be that offensive team if your team's not built like, I guess the Warriors where everybody's
Right.
trying to copy that, but not everybody can do that. The Timberwolves don't have the personnel to do that. They have the personnel to be a really good defensive team if they just make that their identity and everybody takes pride on guarding. And I think that's what guys are doing now. You're even seeing Nas Reed, who, you know, once we just thought was a really good offensive player. Now he's showing that he's a really good defensive player. Same thing with
Yeah,
Cat.
his that was like his
So
biggest knack coming into, well, I guess not being drafted was Like his offense was never in question, but it was, how quick he can defend. Can he defend on the low block? Can he play with these other bigs in the league? And I think he's proven that he can. So
100%, man. And I think that just comes down to, just wanting it more. Like the defense is, you can teach that. You just have to want it. You have to just
Mhm.
make those actions on the defensive end and really show that that's what you want to do and shut down your opponent. And Chris Finch, I think, and his staff have done a really good job of instilling that in all the players, and they see it's working, and that's just making them want it even more. So, as far as that first round series versus Phoenix, I mean, they just put on a total display of defensive domination against three, you know, I don't want to say Hall of Famers, but three really good players. You can't call all them Hall of Famers, obviously KD, but three really good
Two and
players.
plus maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, really, really proud of that. Just uncharted territory for Minnesota to sweep a team and obviously contribute to a team firing their head coach with Frank Vogel being fired today. Like I've never seen the Timberwolves be able to do that. I don't know if that happened in the early 2000s, but that was definitely before my time. But seeing that today is just like, dang, like the Timberwolves really like came so far. And obviously with the awards that they've won, Conley winning the sportsmanship award, Cat winning an off the court award with his community
Mhm.
things that he does. Obviously Rudy Gobert, then Naz Reid. Chris
Mhm.
Finch was in the Coach of the Year running. So it's just a lot to be
Ant,
proud
Ant
about.
got some MVP votes.
And got yeah, so it's only up from here.
Mhm. Yeah, I love it. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
Regardless
man.
of, obviously, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Regardless of what happens the rest of these playoffs, I'm just excited for the future of this team.
Yeah. I think that's all we wanted as Timberwolves fans was to be given a team that we can be proud about. Like
Yeah.
we were cheering on guys like Luke Ridnour, JJ Barea, Now we're here cheering on
Shabazz Muhammad, we had
like
Shane, wait, what's his name? Chase Budinger,
yeah, Robbie Hummel,
Ale- Alexei
Nikola
Shved.
Pekovic, Alexei Shved. Like we were hailing
Hey,
Ricky Rubio.
Peck was a beast.
Pekovic was obviously, yeah, he was a really good player, but like, we
We
were
we had to
praising
go
guys
we had to
like,
go through that to get to here.
you just have to go through it. And that's, you
Yeah,
know, the 76ers have the process. We had a very long one. Yeah.
we had to have Jimmy Butler for
Yeah,
that
Jimmy
time.
Butler.
We had to go through all that. He
Yeah,
had to
the
crush
ups and
Cat's
downs.
spirits in order for
Yeah,
Ant to come in and raise him up. So
exactly.
you gotta go through it.
I love the dynamic between Ant and Cat, you know. A lot of people
Oh,
hate on Cat.
it's so good.
Yeah, but
No,
Anthony
the
Edwards,
chemistry is clearly there, like this
yeah,
team
bro.
is closer than any other team I've seen. And maybe that's just because I'm a Timberwolves fan. I see more Timberwolves related things, but I just feel like the way this group plays and the way this group communicates with each other, like I've never seen anything like it. So,
Yeah, I mean, you've got people calling them like one of the greatest defensive teams that they've ever seen. So, I mean,
mhm,
that's high praise coming from anybody. But especially with the Timberwolves and everything that they've been through, Anthony Edwards being only 22, taking on a leadership role and being so humble, praising his teammates at all times. It's just like we're privileged to have a player like that playing for Minnesota. And I think, you know, it's okay to be excited about it. It's okay to think that this Timberwolves team can win a championship. You know,
mhm.
a lot of people want to factor in, all the disappointments in Minnesota sports history, but
It's
it's,
over
I
with.
think it's over with.
I'm
It's
all
not
in on it.
it's
I was gonna get
yeah.
Timberwolves 2024 NBA champs tatted on my forehead this morning, but decided against it.
Yeah. Hey man,
I'll
and it's
I'll wait a
okay
few
to
weeks.
you've got people getting Nas Reed tattoos, it's a different time.
I saw that. Yeah, some guys doing them for 20 bucks.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's just
I just might.
exciting times, man, to
The
say the
the the
least.
culture the culture is different. It's unlike anything we've ever seen here in Minnesota. So,
Yeah. Let's just hope it continues.
mhm.
All right then. So yeah, that was the first round. I guess what player were you most surprised with? Um, Not just in the first round. Let's say what player have you been most surprised with this postseason?
Most surprised with?
Yeah.
I have to think for a minute here.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, the Timberwolves, the whole roster has surprised me. And I mean, I've watched every single game. I know this is how we play, but the Timberwolves fan in me was ready for disappointment. And like you said, it's just we got to leave that behind. Like it feels weird, but it's definitely been a good surprise. Let me take a look.
I mean, I don't want to say Anthony Edwards, but obviously, I think
Oh,
he's been insane.
of course, yeah. I will say that I wouldn't say that's a surprise though. You know, Jalen
Okay.
Brunson definitely been. I
That's a
mean,
surprise.
that's kind of the obvious one. I wouldn't say. Well, I'd say a surprise given the Knicks' success. You know, they're kind of in that
Okay.
same boat where you expect them to hit this stage, and then this is where they let off the gas. But I
Mm.
feel like they're kind of they're similar in that team structure of just they're built on hustle and out hustling your opponent, playing harder than your opponent. And Jalen Brunson's been the clear best player on that team. He's been absolutely going crazy. I think wasn't it like four consecutive 40-point games or something like that?
Yep.
Um, First player to do that since Jordan, I think it was. So pretty pretty ridiculous stuff. But yeah, again, I don't know. Like you said, is that a surprise? He was in MVP conversations. Um,
I would say Josh Hart for me has been a surprise.
he's been balling. Yeah. I
Like,
mean,
I knew he was a
he's the
hustle
hustler in
player,
that team. Yeah.
but just what he's doing offensively as well, crashing the glass, which is obviously part of hustle, but making shots as well. Like I didn't think he had the 3-point shot as good as he has it, you know, and he's made some timely shots for this team.
Mhm.
So I think just the steps he's taken as a player since his rookie year have been crazy. And for the Knicks to get a player like that I don't think they paid too much. I think they just traded Cam Reddish or something like that. I don't know. It wasn't crazy, but to get a player like Josh Hart to pair with Jalen Brunson, I mean, they obviously have the Villanova connection, but he just embodies everything that Tom Thibodeau wants, and that's why he plays him so many minutes. He's played 48 minutes, I don't know how many times in this postseason. Um,
Too many. That's just what that's just how
yeah,
Tom runs his rotation. So
yeah, and he trusts Josh Hart obviously to do what he wants. So, and he doesn't get tired either, right? So, I think Josh Hart's been crazy. Um, just impactful like in so far in both series that he's played. He's just been an X factor. And then I think the same can be said even for Dante DiVincenzo, making timely buckets, guarding, Maxi last series, Tyrese Halliburton in this series. I think he's taking on the challenge on both ends. So I'd say the Knicks
yeah,
just have a couple of surprises just with how depleted their roster is uh, this season and right now. Some guys have
yeah,
stepped
they're
up
doing all
and
this
taken on the
without Julius
challenge.
Randle. Like,
Yeah, and now they're going to be without OG, so it's just like guys are just going to come
hmm
up and make the necessary adjustments and play and fill in. I don't know. I think it's just impressive what the Knicks are doing. But yeah, those would be my surprises probably.
yeah.
I guess moving on to round two though. I
Oh,
mean, oh, what's up?
I was just gonna say another. Again, I don't want to say it's a surprise as a Timberwolves fan, but
Okay.
something that deserves a mention. Jaden McDaniels, this series specifically, has like 5 total points, like plus 51 or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, his
I
plus
mean,
minus
that's
is crazy.
like I know plus minus is one of those stats where like
Yeah.
sometimes it can be doesn't really tell the whole story, but sometimes it tells the entire story. And in this situation, I think it does. Um, just with his impact, I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous to not be contributing to any offense barely at all. and to have that kind of impact on the game. So
Yeah. Some of the people he's had to guard in this postseason is just it's insane. KD,
he's
Beal,
guarded everybody.
Booker,
Yeah,
Jamal Murray, MPJ. It's just like if he's not on an all defensive team this year, I mean, that is a travesty. Like he needs to make all defensive team. He said it himself today. He thinks he's the best defender in the NBA outside of Rudy Gobert. So he needs to be on an all defensive team. I
yeah,
think he's fully taken on that next step,
he definitely
especially in this
deserves it.
postseason. Yeah, so I mean he's been amazing for what the Timberwolves need. He's not scoring, but that's okay. Guys step up in place of him. He had his scoring outings, I think in round one. Um, Not so far in round two, and that's okay. But I think as long as he continues to make things tough on Jamal Murray and some of the other threats that Denver has to offer, I think he's doing just fine. And it's well worth it with him being on that sort of contract. I know a lot of people were saying that's a lot for his output, not really scoring the ball too much, but I think it's 100% worth it if it means winning games and, you know, um, being a large part of that.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you could honestly make the argument that he is the best defender in the league, and that's not a knock on Rudy Gobert, but I mean, you think about like nobody else can guard the paint and guard the perimeter the way that he can. He can guard any position 1 through 5 well, like not just guard them, but like shut them down.
Yeah. I don't know how he fell to the late first round, but Minnesota were blessed. You know, let's just say that. Like, I don't know how they got him, but man, he's been so good and like just his growth alongside Anthony Edwards it's been really good to see. And that's another guy that Anthony Edwards speaks highly about. I mean, he speaks highly about all his teammates, like I said, but everybody loves Jaden McDaniels just because of who he is and
Mhm.
what he does. He doesn't say a whole lot, but his game does the talking for him. And I think he's been just really important for what the Timberwolves have been doing so far in this playoff run. So yeah, definitely a good shout to have him. I think I've been surprised somewhat by what he's been doing. Obviously, Minnesota fans know what Jaden McDaniels does, but I think just with the elite talent that he's having to guard and continuing to be a like that pest and making things tough, I think definitely a
Mhm.
surprise for so many around the league. So yeah, it's a good shout. Let me see if there's anyone else I could think of. Um, I mean, New York has just a lot. Indiana, uh, no. Cleveland, I don't think have anybody. Um, Boston, I mean, Derek White's been really good, but I'm not surprised by that. Um,
Yeah, he's just been a solid piece for them.
yeah, I think I could be wrong about this after today, but I think Lou Dort has been really good, just shutting down Brandon Ingram in round one, and then
Hmm.
playing a large part of the low scoring game for Luca in game one of the second round series. I think Lou Dort's gonna have an impact with who he's guarding. He's guarding the best guard, and in this series it's gonna be either Luca or Carby, and the next round it could be if they advance, Anthony Edwards or Jamal Murray. So it's just like with his responsibilities and also being able to hit some of those shots from the perimeter, I think he's been just a large reason why they are where they are. And him being there as long as Shea's been there, um, I think he's been, just really good for them. He's growing with this team, and he's also somebody who should be on an all defensive team. Just I'm a big fan of Lou Dort. I know
Yeah.
that we have the rivalry with the Timberwolves and OKC, but it's just like I can respect somebody who hustles on the defensive end. That's what I see in the Timberwolves team, so I have to respect it when other guys do it as well. So I like what he's doing. Um, and yeah, league leading defensive rating the Thunder have in the playoffs so far by a little bit of a margin too. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, he's a big part of that. I know I thought people would say, or I thought it would be Minnesota, and I know people would say that as well. But yeah, league leading defensive rating in the playoffs, the Thunder by a little significant margin, I would say. So they've been playing really well. They're also undefeated like the Timberwolves. So I mean, Lou Dort's a big part of that. I think he's been a surprise
Mhm.
in terms of just shutting down some of the, you know, really good perimeter players in the league so far. Um, and I don't think people really recognize that about him. They don't really recognize a lot of things about the Thunder either. Obviously they know Ludor is a good defender, but I think he's going to show this playoffs that he's a lot better than people think.
Yeah.
So, okay. Moving on to round two, though, we got a few series here. We can start off with uh, Western Conference. Well, let's do Eastern Conference first. Let's save the best for last with the West.
Yeah.
No shade thrown, but like let's just be
Get the
honest.
boring stuff out of the way.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
let's start with Boston, Cleveland. Cleveland down 1-0. Boston leading the series right now. Um, Let me take a look at what's going on since we
I
are
would say
speaking midway through a
Cleveland's been
game.
Cleveland's
Cleveland's
handling business
actually
tonight though.
winning. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so uh I might take away some of my takes, but um I guess what are you looking for in this what are you
Gonna
looking
let
for in this
you-
series? Yeah, I was about to go in, but what are you looking
I
for
really do
yeah.
going with that. I really do think this is gonna be a lot better of a series than people think. I think Cleveland's a better team than people give them credit for, and I honestly think that Boston might not be as good as, at least they're not playing as good as they can be. Um, Obviously they're the one seed. It feels weird to even say that, but when you have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, uh, Drew, they got Derek White, like Porzingis. I'm like I can just keep like they have a roster, like they should be dominating these teams. I feel like I mean they took care of business in game one. Cleveland bouncing back in game two here in Boston. I really think that Cleveland could take them to seven.
Okay.
I don't think that
7
Boston
is
is the clear-cut best team in the East. I think they are the best team in the East. I just don't think they're the clear cut. I don't
yeah,
think it's
okay.
that like that. I don't think it's like they're up here like I was thinking before.
Yeah.
I
Um
feel like all four East teams, like all these teams can make a run, make some noise right now.
I haven't been watching this game so do right now, but I will say, and they have some inefficiencies to their game if they're not making shots. Defensively, I mean, they have good players, but I don't think you're really worried about them scoring against them. I would say it's not really too big of a worry. They're a good defensive team, one of the better defensive teams. They lead the playoffs in net rating, so obviously they're a good overall team, the most complete team in the playoffs. But I think overall they have some faults that can be exposed. So I want to say that this series might not be as some may have expected, like a sweep. Like I definitely expected a sweep, but talent doesn't
Hmm.
always prevail. You got to put together efforts consistently. And that's what the Celtics sometimes struggle to do. So I want to say, um, I want to say this is gonna go like 6 games because I don't see Boston winning both games in Cleveland. Um,
Hmm.
like how they did when they lost game two against Miami last series. I don't think that's just going to be the case here where they're just going to go, okay, they lock in and then just beat Cleveland twice. Because, I mean, Cleveland have given them problems this year. They're a good team, talented team, as I said, but they don't always put it together. So, um, I don't know. I mean, Cleveland's a good team, like I said, but can Boston show that they're a good team as well and really handle the games that they should handle? I mean, Tatum and Brown not shooting well puts them in a hole. And I think if Cleveland maximize their opportunities and then they can obviously steal games or just take games away from Boston in the series. So it's going to be a tight series, tighter than what I thought. But I think 5 is probably doing a disservice to what Cleveland have to offer. So I'm going to say 6, especially if Cleveland finish out this fourth quarter and win game two. But yeah, I was about to
Hmm.
say, man, like I was gonna go in on Cleveland. I was like, this is gonna be a sweep. This is no chance. But
Get the
Boston
broom.
just coming in here, like, yeah, Boston doing what they do sometimes, and that's the biggest thing with Boston. Like, if you can't make your shots, it's like, what are you gonna do? Your defense is good, but is it that good to rescue you in certain games? I don't know.
Hmm.
But what other series we got? Okay. New York and Indiana. New York's leading the series 2-0. Um, there's some controversy
Hmm.
going on with Indiana protesting some of these calls. I don't know. I think they said 78. They
Yeah.
submitted to the league office. Um, and then Rick
Good
Carlisle is
luck.
saying there's some small market bias going on or big market bias, however you want to interpret that. Basically, that they're not giving a fair shot to advance in these playoffs and beat a team like New York. What do you take away from this series so far and Rick Carlisle's comments?
Excuses. And kind of a bad look as a head coach, to be honest. But you're not even given a fair chance. Like you're saying that you lost. Like pick it up, figure it out, and beat them by 30 so it doesn't get to this point. That should be your mindset, you know? I don't know. I understand the frustration, you know. I haven't seen all 78 calls that he decided to break down instead of breaking down why his team lost 2 games in a row, but I have to imagine that some of those 78 aren't like you have every single game. I definitely think officiating has been questionable at best all season. I don't think anybody's debating that. Um, is for something like that, but I do think immediately, whining that you're not given a fair shot as a head coach of a playoff team, just it's not a good look for the Pacers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how the fans feel about that, but if I was a Pacers fan, I wouldn't feel too proud about that, that kind of notion that you're not given the fair effort. Like, it sounds like excuses. I wouldn't be too happy about that personally. Like, I would just been like, all right, you guys could have controlled some things in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Losing that quarter 36-18 didn't do you any favors after having a lead at halftime. Could have been looking at a few different things that could have just not put the game in the ref's hands. Because I mean there were some weird things going on in the first couple of games that like gave you some question marks. Maybe thinking that then I mean the Knicks are getting a better whistle. That's okay. I mean that's fair to say, but just to put it all on that, I don't think that's fair. Um,
Yeah.
New York just us out hustles teams as we say, and they're deserving of being in a 2-0 series lead right now. I think the Knicks are just a better team, and the Pacers are going to have to show it at home that they can compete with the Knicks for full 48 minutes and match their intensity, which not many teams can do. You can't just be a really good offensive team and be a below average defensive team and expect to advance throughout the playoffs. Like, it's not going to work like that. You're going to have to match the intensity and you're going to have to be able to score on this defense. So, uh, it's excuses. I would agree with that. And I think, um, obviously, game three is going to be pivotal in this series. Um, Tyrese Halliburton came out aggressive in game two, had a really good game. And I think he's going to have to continue that to give them any sort of chance because Brunson
Mm-hmm.
has been having his way. And, Josh Hart, obviously, Dante DiVincenzo, like Miles McBride, Hartenstein, like they're all just competing. And you got
Mm-hmm.
to win game three, especially with OG Anunoby not playing. Like that's got to be the game that you win. You got to, find a way to get back to Madison Square Garden for a game five.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
agree. And yeah,
yeah,
even if the bad calls are the reason you lost, yeah, I just feel like as head coach, you got to come out and say that, as a team, we have to be better, we have to work harder.
yeah,
Handle the business, whatever, but don't put it all on the fact that you missed a couple of calls that didn't go your way or whatever the case is. Like,
yeah. Especially for multiple games. Like, okay, I get it for one game, but like doing it for both games is just like
yeah,
accept defeat. New York is a better team right now,
yeah.
and you've got to match their
Give props to
intensity.
your opponent. Yeah.
Yeah. But over to the Western Conference. Let's start with OKC and Dallas. Um, just what did you see in game one, if you watched any of that game, and What do you expect to happen in this series?
Uh, I mean, I saw Kyrie get into it, and that's pretty funny. Otherwise, I mean, Thunder handled business. You know, like you said, they've on their undefeated run. They're just like Timberwolves. They're young. They're hungry. They play hard. Um, I think Dallas has been playing very well all season. I think this is the best we've seen a team around Luka, with him and Kyrie. So I think they'll give the Thunder a run. I don't think the Thunder continue this undefeated undefeated run that they're on, but um, it's gonna definitely be a battle for the Mavericks.
Yeah. I mean, this Thunder team, there's a lot of talk about how young they are, but doesn't seem to phase them. I mean, they're just a really good team, well put together team, and a lot of credit goes to the for being able to put this sort of team there. And their offense just it's not entirely running through Shea. You know, they have other players that can make plays like Jalen Williams and then guys that can hit
Hmm.
timely shots as well. So it's just like it's a complete team. They battle, and a guy like Lou Dort, um, Josh Giddey, they make all those extra, needed plays that kind of fill in the gaps, if you will. So I like what they do as a team, and Dallas is going to have their. It's not. It's like Dallas. Obviously, they've got Kyrie and Luca, and you might seem like they have the advantage in terms of the talent, which is fair. But again, like talent isn't how you win these sort of games. You got to be able to out hustle your team. That's what Dallas did in round one. So they're gonna have to do it again and show
Hmm.
that experience does prevail in this sort of playoff setting, and that's what they can do. But they're gonna have to show it in game two. I think that game is tonight, so I'm looking forward to seeing what Dallas
Hmm.
does. Gonna need a better game from everyone, including Luca, of course. Um, he seemed to brush it off when they asked him about it, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. And I think it's just going to be a good series overall. Like you said, I don't think OKC is going to continue to just sweep their way through these playoff rounds. I think they're going to encounter some sort of adversity along the way, and I'm interested to see like how they would respond to that. Obviously, being in their first playoff run as a team together, and then um, SGA, potentially, however you want to put it, like getting snubbed of that MVP award yesterday. Maybe he's playing
Yeah.
with some motivation. We'll have to see. But I think it's going to be a good game
Did,
too and a good rest of the series.
did you see the interview of Shaq
Heck, he said,
congratulating Jokic?
with all due respect, I don't think you
That was
deserve that.
that
Like,
was crazy.
I was just
Yeah.
like, dang.
I was like, hey, Shaq's on our side, getting in his head still mid-series. I love
Yeah,
it. But I was like, that's so out of
yeah,
pocket. Like,
yeah. Definitely did not see that coming. But you know, I mean, you can't deny greatness. I mean, Jokic is
yeah,
Jokic. I know we get tired of Jokic, winning all these awards and stuff, and that perhaps contributed to him not winning it last year, but you can't argue with him winning it. SJ had a great year, Luka had a great year, but Jokic had a just as good of a year, if not better than those two. So I think sometimes we just want to give the award to someone new, and that's what we've done in the past. But I don't think we should always do
yeah,
that. Sometimes you just got to give it to the most deserving, player, the most valuable player, and that's what they did. So I don't think
definitely.
I mean everybody has their own opinion. Shaq is entitled to his own opinion, of course. But yeah, that was definitely something. uh,
Yeah, that was
but
that was
ultimately, I
wild.
mean, it's going to be an interesting series to see how Dallas responds in game two and moving forward, going to Dallas. But Denver, Minnesota, the last series, talk about, I mean, I think it's been a surprise to most, if not everybody, to see this series being
Oh,
2-0. I mean,
I was hoping to go into Denver and split the series with them.
exactly. That's what I was hoping
Two
as
two
well.
zero coming back to Minnesota. I mean,
Yeah.
don't want to get ahead of myself and say we're going to sweep them. Obviously, it's the Denver Nuggets. Anything can happen, but we got to be just feeling so confident, especially not just winning. game two, but the kind of performance that we put on. I mean, we had Jamal Murray throwing towels and heating pads. Like that's supposed to be their second best player, borderline all star. Like
Yeah.
how I don't even
When you
remember how
get
many points did he have? If he had like 6 points or something, you know, like basket.
I'm not sure how many points he had, but he went 3 for 18 from the field. He struggled in
It
both of
was
those games.
3 for
So
18.
I just think they're in their heads, the Timberwolves are,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, that's just not a good place to be in for a playoff team to get mentally just rattled like that. And it showed in your play that you were phased, and I didn't expect that from a defending champion by any means. So
Mm-mm.
I'm really interested to see, like, with Minnesota having all this momentum and all these good vibes around their team right now, like, what are we expecting from Denver? Like, what more can they show? Because like it seems like Minnesota just has an answer for everything they do, and they take them out of every action that they try. They're not bothered by Denver's defense, and they make things tough on Denver's offense, who is an elite. They have an elite offense, and it's not looking like an elite offense versus Minnesota. So, I was saying that I think the Timberwolves are actually finding this Nuggets team to be a better matchup for them than the Suns were. And I don't know how you would take that personally, but I just think this Timberwolves team is, many have said it's built to beat the Nuggets. And personnel wise, I mean, and you look at the front office with Tim Conley, I mean, you can see why. Like, this is a
Mm-hmm.
really good defensive team with two bigs built to stop any sort of dominant big man, like a Nikola Jokic, and the perimeter defense to stop someone like Jamal Murray. And
Which is crazy
those are the two guys, yeah, that you need to look out for
considering
if
how well
you're
we matched up with the Suns, who were all small ball too.
exactly. So
We were able
I
to shut
just
down both.
yeah, it's really just I don't know what Denver's gonna do. That's honestly like just humbly speaking, like I don't know what Denver can do to change things and to respond because they're gonna have to make the Timberwolves uncomfortable, which
Mm-hmm.
they haven't done so far. And usually when a team like Denver loses a game one, which doesn't happen often, you would expect them to respond back in game two, and that wasn't the case at all. And the Timberwolves were missing
Yeah,
Rudy Gobert, the defensive player of the year. So it's just
I
like,
was 100% expecting us to lose that game.
yeah,
I
you know.
did not think it was going to go the way it did.
So I'm really
That
just
that that was my playoff surprise.
yeah. I mean, definitely for me, if we're talking about a playoff surprise. That's the one. So
Yeah,
going back to Minnesota, where game three and game four. I mean, a lot of people are expecting the sweep. I don't know. It's really tough to sweep a defending champion, but the Nuggets are just rattled right now, and they're going to have to show something different. Like they're going to have to take the Timberwolves out of
yeah,
their mojo, and that's going to be hard to do with how much of a high they're in right now. So, looking forward to seeing what Denver does, but I just don't know if they have an answer for what Minnesota is doing to them.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Offensively, they'll have to find a way to. It's usually the other way around. Offensively, they'll have to find a way to disrupt our defense, and make us change how we do things. That's their only way to beat us, really. Because right now, like you said, they just don't have any answers for what we're throwing at them. So
Yeah, man. If you had to predict, I mean, who do you think is going to win game three?
I think the Timberwolves. Um, I just think we're rolling with the confidence. We're gonna show up at Target Center. They're gonna announce the awards of
So many
four
guys.
four of our guys. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's gonna
Right.
overshadow the Jokic MVP that was just announced this week after Shaq told him to his face that he didn't deserve it. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like the confidence we just have that advantage, and confidence and momentum in basketball is everything. So
100%. Yeah, I also have Minnesota winning game three. Um, it's like it would be a surprise if they lost game three with how well they're playing right now. If they lost game three, it would just seem like a missed opportunity, and Denver would get so much more momentum back, and they'd feel way more confident going into game four, and then obviously
mhm,
bringing the series back to Denver. So I think the Timberwolves realize that with how good of a team Denver is, that they can't take their foot off the gas. But if you're a Timberwolves fan, if you're just watching this Timberwolves team and you know, looking at how they're playing, you got to be like in awe of what they're doing to the defending champions. And it's hard not to expect them to finish the series out in Minnesota because they've got the Nuggets number. So I'd say game three
Hmm.
is going to be a closer game than some may expect, but it's going to go in the Timberwolves' favor just because I think they have, the winning plays in them. Whereas Denver, they're not getting it right now from Jamal Murray, and that's a big part of what they do. So I'm gonna go Timberwolves win in game three.
That's the other thing is every time Jamal Murray touches the floor, he's going to be booed. So
Hmm. And that's like a lot of people have talked about it since, but I think I'm kind of, as a Nuggets fan and just like NBA fan in general, I'm kind of disappointed with how he responded to the fine and everything that's gone on. Like he didn't take any accountability whatsoever. And it was just
I
like he
mean,
just wanted to move on just because it was 2 days later, he wants to move on from that event, acting like he didn't just act like a kid out there throwing
yeah, but
tantrums. Like,
that response is on par for the actions he did.
yeah.
Like
So
he's
you're
just
just
really showing
proving,
his
yeah,
character. Like
yeah. Actions speak louder than words. I don't know who was
yeah,
talking about it. Maybe it was Greenberg or Stephen A from ESPN, but they were talking about this, and I'm like, I couldn't agree more with what they were saying because he just showed through his actions of what he was doing in the press conference, and he didn't take any accountability, and it was on par,
yeah,
like you said, with his actions on Monday.
yeah.
So yeah, that's just disappointing. I would
It's
say as a Nuggets fan, I'd be like, dang, like he had
yeah,
opportunity to take accountability, chose not to do it. He declined to speak to the
yeah,
media after the game and acted like since 2 days passed, he can just move on. Like I'd be disappointed if I'm even the coaching staff watching that. Like I don't know. I mean, I don't know where his head's at right now. Like he obviously just got fined a big bag. Like going into game three, just it like I'm saying, like just they seem mentally affected, and the Timberwolves are a team that thrives on that. So I don't know, man. I'd be disappointed though if I'm a Nuggets fan.
yeah. Extremely. I mean, I think about, and I mean not condoning this, but like Pat Bev throwing the ball at the fan, you know,
Yeah.
obviously absolutely terrible. Immediately he went on his podcast or whatever and was like, that was completely out of line. I need to be better. I will be better. Like that was disgusting. Like I don't even know what I was thinking when that happened. Like Jamal Murray had the chance to do that in that moment, and he didn't. So
Yeah. I think Pat Bev situation. I feel like people were more upset with the reporter interaction where he was just like, "Oh, you're not subscribed to the pod? Oh, you can't talk to me."
that's
I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
he got a lot of heat for that for sure.
I mean,
So
you can pick 1,000 reasons to hate Pat Bev. I mean, I did most of
yeah.
his career.
If anything, though, I mean, you're right. He took accountability on the podcast with his actions after the game. Um, and he just got suspended, what, 4 games for next season? So
Yeah,
I'm kind of confused what the league's, thought process is on why they suspended him and not Jamal Murray for endangering opponents and even his own team by his actions. And
star power.
okay,
I'm
it's
just kidding.
just I don't know, man. It's kind of interesting. Like just, you know, I really don't know what the league was just the thought process behind that. I'm intrigued, but it is what it is. I think the Timberwolves fans obviously want to be a Nuggets team at full strength. I would say, I would hope. So we'll see what
Hmm.
happens. But yeah, just wanted to speak on that Jamal Murray thing real quick. I was just shocked that he didn't take any accountability. Like they couldn't ask him any questions about that. He just wanted to talk about basketball. I'm like, nah, man, like that's not how it's gonna work. You're gonna take
Yeah,
accountability for this. But hey, man, that's
yeah.
what he wants to
You want
do.
to talk about basketball, then keep it basketball.
Exactly. That's in your hands. But you chose to throw a tantrum. You chose to try to be the star of the show. You chose to try to endanger your
Hmm.
team, your opponents, put your team at a disadvantage. Um, and even Michael Malone, he took accountability too because he had his own moments in that game. and he went and said like I didn't like how we
Oh
lost our
yeah, yeah. He
composure.
should have.
Yeah, obviously he should have got a tech or should have got ejected, but it is what it is. Like we can't have everything. Um, but yeah, man. Definitely looking forward to game three and game four this weekend at the Target Center. I know the
Mhm.
atmosphere is going to be crazy. The chance to go to a Western Conference Finals, a lot on the line.
Hey, I might drop $500 to go sit in the nosebleeds. We'll see.
Hey man, this is once in a lifetime. You never know. Might have to, but
Hey, I'm gonna say I'm glad honestly that Timberwolves prices are that crazy because they've been real cheap for a long time.
yeah, it's a good thing. You know, in the
Yeah,
grand scheme of things, it's a good thing. So, but I'm looking forward to the next time we
yeah.
can chat.
Hopefully, yeah. We'll do
All
we'll
right
do a
then.
round two recap. Otherwise, the Timberwolves lose. We'll never talk again. No, I'm just
We'll
kidding.
never talk again. Yeah, we'll see when in
No, we'll do a round two recap regardless.
All right then, Tyler. It's a good episode. Appreciate you coming on as always. And we'll see you guys next time. This was episode 88 in the books. Peace.